In terms of young black girls, I feel we are being sold a lifestyle that is not attainable for our age, for our health, and just in general. Welcome to Glow Up Girl podcast, presented to you by the Blossom Foundation. My name is Aname.
And I'm Toyin, and today we're going to be talking to you about role models, who they are to us, how they inspire us, and role models at Blossom. Let's go.
Well, I think to be a good role model is to, I'd say have a set of morals. You know, we're both faith-based. I'm a Christian, and I believe that it's just really important to have a certain code that you live by and have it so that another person can admire that and actually want to follow that and appreciate it. For example, my mum, she just one thing that I've gotten from her is her faith, and it's just really admirable, and just the way she cares for people as well. I want to be like that. So yeah, I feel like that's just one of the things in being a good role model.
I think a quality that a good role model will possess is a good work ethic, and then that comes along with traits like perseverance and resilience as well, because if you have a good work ethic, then I think people can relate to that, because a lot of the things that people struggle with is being motivated, especially as you grow older, your responsibilities increase, and then just knowing or having someone to look up to that has demonstrated a good work ethic, even when they've got a lot of responsibilities and things that they're doing, but they're still managing to work towards their goals and aspirations. Yeah, I think that's what a good role model looks like to me.
I feel like I'm a really community-based person, and as I said, I'm a faith-based person. Everyone around me in my community, they all have different aspects of them that I admire. For example, I want to be a lawyer in the future, and even Toyin's mum is a lawyer, and she inspires me. And
I was going to say that.
I love her so much as well. And my dad's a lawyer, so I was able to understand that I can make it. My parents moved here from Nigeria in 2011, I believe, and I've seen how they've, despite everything, they put everything on the line just to make sure that they got a better life, and most importantly that I got a better life. So it really helps me want to go and get that, do good in my education and actually be a lawyer. Because of my dad, I can see, whoa, as a black woman, I'm able to actually achieve my goals no matter what. Because, my dad was a lawyer. I'm surrounded by wonderful lawyers and wonderful educated people. And it just really makes me happy, and, makes me think that just because, of my skin colour, that I can, I'm not disadvantaged, and I can still make a change and still achieve the goals that I want to.
So yeah, as you said, my mum's a lawyer. She's very inspiring. She actually qualified as a solicitor later than most people. She qualified, I think, after having 3 children. I'm sorry. I can't remember when she qualified, but I know it was pretty late compared to other people in her field. But she had my dad, who was she always says that he supported her throughout everything, and they just worked great as a team. Being a role model is also about having people that support you as well, so you can see the people that support your role model and remind you that it's not always you don't always have to do everything alone, and you have people that push you forward as well. And my uncle is a barrister as well, so he pushes my mum along. I see them encouraging each other, because I feel being in a competitive field like the legal field, sometimes you might feel you just need to focus on your own goals, and then you can't get help from other people because it's so competitive. You just need to be basically a shark in the legal field and just stay streamlined on yourself. But I think seeing them work together, I think is really inspiring, because teamwork, you always need teamwork when you're young and even when you're older.
Teamwork makes a dream work. Okay. You were just saying, even yesterday in our youth group, we were talking about different attributes and everything. And even, oh my gosh, in Bible study in my school, we were literally talking about selfishness as well. So it just reminded me that in everything, being a good role model means that it's not just a one-man thing, as you literally said. And I don't know, I really want to emphasize the importance of a community. I feel in all aspects, just to have a little background, recently I've gone through a lot of struggles, but Having that community, I feel like if I didn't have that community, if I didn't have supportive parents, if I didn't have my church community, if I didn't have friends who actually, listened to me and cared for me, it would have been like different circumstances. So I just feel like good role models, being someone that has a community and is also a community to someone else. Like you, I'm literally able to, call you up at any time and talk to you. So it's really being like a person that someone can lean on, and being like a person that's, not judgmental, not selfish, and someone in the world can feel comfortable talking to.
I think being the middle child, I've seen my brother, who is 3 years older than me, have the responsibility of being the older sibling to two little sisters. And then also being the middle child and having a little sister, I have the responsibility of being a role model to her. So then I kind of stole some stuff from my brother, like the way that he handles situations where, for example, conflict, he's really good at dialing down both me and my sister's arguments by just stepping in. He'll just logically talk us through it and let us know that what we're arguing about is actually really not that deep. And then I've tried to implement that in the way that I handle conflict situations between me and my sister. It doesn't always work, but I've tried to like implement that so that she can also know that in some situations being angry or resorting to anger is not the most useful thing all the time. And also like being a role model as an older sister, I find myself in situations where I feel like I should do one thing, but knowing that if I saw my sister doing this, I'd know like I wouldn't be happy or wouldn't feel proud or would be disappointed in her. So being a role model, I think it also comes with self-reflection and also like kind of like the way that you were saying earlier about living by a moral code. Since you know that you're a role model, you know that you can't just like do things you wouldn't expect people that look up to you to do. So it's kind of a way to keep yourself in line as well. So I think that's a benefit of being a role model and also having a role model as well.
In Blossom, I feel because we were kind of like integrated into it. We were quite young at the time, so we already like knew the older girls. But I feel like as we've grown up, we've met people that we've not met before, and as we're older girls, so we kind of like took on that aspect of being role models. But when we were younger, the older girls were quite nice to us. They kind of helped. They helped us out in places like that we weren't kind of used to, because we were like primary school and they were like high school. We just thought, OMG, they're miles ahead of us. But yeah, I feel from that we kind of modeled how we should act towards the younger girls now. So like if we see like a younger girl that we're not familiar with, we kind of go up to them, make conversation. And also if there's like another younger girl, we kind of like pair them up to see if they're compatible, and so they're not alone. So I'd say that there is quite a lot of role model aspects, and through Blossom you like make so many good friendships and good connections, like big sister and younger sister connections that I really appreciate. And even with people that I already knew, with Blossom I was able to know them deeper and like get a stronger relationship with them.
If you're a young black girl looking for your own community, head over to blossomfoundation.org.uk, where you can sign up and become a member and come along, meet the team, introduce yourself, meet some new friends, and hopefully have a nice time.
I think it's quite important to acknowledge culture and being a role model. When I think of that, I think of the actor Viola Davis. I want to pursue a career in law, and when I was younger, I used to watch How to Get Away with Murder. Of course, that is like quite a like warped sense of the law, but seeing her outside of acting, she's just quite inspiring. I love how like she carries herself as a black woman, and she's won so many awards for playing so many different characters in movies. And I feel like watching those movies, like, it really gives me a sense of like identity and courage, and I really see her as a quite good role model for that.
I've got a role model that just popped into my head. So she's called Toni Morrison, and she's not so much part of pop culture, but she's part of the Black literary canon, and I'm doing her for my English lit course. That's why I just remembered her. The book that I'm doing is called Beloved, and it's about this woman who was driven to like insanity by the effects of slavery. She tried to, a bit of a disclaimer, but she tried to like kill one of her children because she was so scared of returning back to the conditions of slavery. And at first, like the first read, it was quite harrowing because I couldn't like really imagine how someone could do that to their child. But then I realised that through reading the book, she structures the book in a kind of way that is fragmented, and it shows the way that like memory and mental health and just like the psyche has been like warped by the effects of slavery. So you kind of go on that journey with the main character, and I think it was really beautiful to read. So I definitely, maybe not if you're like really young, but like if you're a bit older, I definitely recommend to read one of her books, because they drew attention to what was happening in the Black community in times where the colonizers were trying to reclaim the narrative to try and show themselves as, try and take away some of the blame, apportion some of the blame to the Black community, and portray them in a way that kind of justified slavery and the treatment that Black people were going over. And she like takes it back and portrays basically what was happening in the 1800s, 1900s in such a way that you can try and empathize as much as you can from a standpoint of being in the 21st century, but try and empathize as much as you can. And I feel like immersing yourself in literary works like that, I feel like that's one of the best ways to try and understand like our history. And I feel like that's an important part of being a role model as well. I feel like being a role model, especially in the Black community, you need to be able to not just like look to the future, but also understand the past so that you can understand where we're coming from so that we can move forward. And I feel like that's a part that we don't really talk about as role models, because at the end of the day, like Black role models in the community, as much as like we see a lot of the glitz and glamour, we all did come from a line of quite tragic events. And I feel like the more people like acknowledge that, then we'll be able to like learn more about ourselves and understand more about our history and move forward, hopefully. Yeah.
I totally agree, because as you were talking, I was literally just thinking about, I'm currently doing my coursework on the causes of the Biafra War. If you don't know, then the Biafra War was a Nigerian civil war, and there were many causes such as political leadership, economic instability, and ethnic tensions. We actually need to understand our history and our past. And I feel like in terms of Black history, we're always learning about Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King. Of course, they did make a lot of change in terms of the civil rights movement, but I don't think that's all to do with Black history. I feel like as Black individuals, African individuals, Caribbean individuals, we need to take a step back and look at our history. And through that, we can, look at our role models. I've been like really learning a lot about Nigerian history. I'm Nigerian myself, but I didn't talking to my parents, I didn't really know about this. So I feel like if we actually go back and read, as you said, read literature and read actual Black history, it's you can find so many telling role models from there.
I think it's interesting we've delved into the more literary side of role models and history, because I think a pressing matter, in my opinion, it's an issue and something I feel very strongly about, is the way that social media has, I'm going to say distorted, because that's the way I feel distorted the way that role models are presented in society. People's idea of a role model nowadays, especially in Black culture, unfortunately, is someone who has achieved this glitzy glamour lifestyle by any means necessary. People aren't really finding value in that hard work, kind of the grit that's needed to become a role model or just an upstanding member of society, because nowadays as the world is developing, there's so many different pathways to fame and wealth that people are willing to take any means to achieve that. And I think there's a lot of people, I'm not going to say icons because that kind of glorifies them a bit and that's not what I'm trying to do, but just a lot of people in society that people look up to. For example, celebrities now. A lot of people are trying to get into the industry because they feel that's quite, not everyone, some people genuinely have a passion, but people feel like that's a way to achieve fame straight away. And I feel like it's really dangerous trying to get into the industry, because a lot of things there's a lot of things in the industry that haven't been brought to light, and there's a lot of downsides to it. With fame, a lot of famous people have passed away way before their time, in their prime, due to the effects of fame. For example, I was on the tram this morning, I was talking to a member of my school, and she was telling me about how she was so distraught when Whitney Houston passed away. And we all know the tragedy of Whitney Houston, how she passed away unfortunately due to her use of drugs and just the bad side of fame. And I feel like people are looking up to these celebrities and they're glorifying these people who don't show the bad side of their life. And in youth fellowship, someone brought up the fact that you can't compare your everyday life you can't compare your behind the scenes to people's spotlight. So with people in social media, they will only shed light on what they feel they are proud of, what they want people to maybe not have jealousy for, but just envy. And that's what they want to propagate, so that they feel like they're putting their best foot forward. And then you've got young girls and young men as well who are comparing what they are going through to people who are only portraying the best side of themselves. And it's so detrimental, because they're not recognizing the fact that at the end of the day, we're all human. And as much as we do have role models, if you like glorify someone and idolize someone to the effect that you don't see the detrimental effect that their lifestyle has, it's just going to have such a bad effect on your own life that you start striving towards things that you're not meant to. Fame before you've even finished your education. You're not prioritizing your family, not maintaining relationships, and you're just going to find yourself isolating yourself because you're trying to reach somewhere that it's not your time. You're trying to reach somewhere that's not in your timeline yet. And I just feel like we need to get rid of that narrative that people that are glorified in social media have it all, because in my opinion, I just don't think you can have it all in everyday life, but also in social media. Yeah.
Honestly, Toyin, I feel like we actually need to put a whole emphasis on social media and the urban black culture. I feel the urban black culture has really like faced a downfall recently and in general. In terms, like, I just want to narrow it down in terms of young black girls. I feel we are being sold a lifestyle that is not attainable for our age, for our health, and just in general. For example, in terms of like most basic things such as aesthetics, getting your hair, nails and lashes done every single month, every single week consecutively, it's not attainable for a young black girl. And I feel like we're being thrown such things, and we are essentially being made insecure because of how society sees us. And with social media, that's exemplified because we see all these, black women, older black women our age, that's saying, oh yeah, this is the lifestyle I live. And of course, it's a nice lifestyle. You want to live like that. But, it's kind of all being shoved down our throats, and we think, whoa, this is the lifestyle I need to have. I feel like a major example of this would be like, the Insta baddie culture where, we see like young girls having literally like stacks of money, and you're like, whoa, how did they get that? So, you just start to ponder and think, whoa, how do I get quick money? Things like that. And it's just really detrimental because people go to lengths just to, as you said, live a social media lifestyle. And I've seen, I feel like a mum, on like them little WhatsApp groups saying, but like when you, sometimes it's literally not real. I was watching this little video on Snapchat, and it was literally a woman posted it in a private jet, but in reality, the private jet was not really a private jet. It was just a setup. And people won't know, and they think, whoa, this woman has such a wonderful lifestyle. How did she get that at such a young age? I feel we need to actually put a strong emphasis on the fact that it's okay to be where you are. It really is. I put so much pressure on myself. Like, I want to get like a BMW M340i X-Drive, all dark, by 18. But I'm like, how can I get a 30k car at 18? That's not really possible. I feel it's okay to take life slow. I feel as black women, young black women especially, we need to stop looking at other people's lives and idolizing it. Because when you idolize it, you don't have any confidence in yourself, and you feel, if my life is not like theirs, then there's no point. I'm just not doing enough. I feel we're kind of being sold in this like generation that we need to do things quickly, this hustle culture. Like, we need to actually just it's normal to have a degree, have a normal job, do things slow. It's normal to get a house by 25, 26. You don't need to get a house at 18. You're fine. We need to take things slow. We need to get a grip of life, enjoy life while you can, be a kid while you can, just be yourself. You don't need to get your hair done every week to be, Instagram baddie. Like, you can be beautiful without feeding into the consumer society. That's one thing I really want to touch about. I hate the consumer society so much. I feel we're just being like, a lot of things are being shoved down our face.
Like influencing.
Yes. I just feel like, we just get influenced so much. Everything we see, we want. And it's like people are literally going into debt because of that. And it's like, it's okay, guys. I feel we just need to take a deep breath. Everything is okay. just be yourself and find beauty in that. And, as young black girls, I feel like we're kind of being made insecure by social media. And what I'd say, I always like to go ghost off of social media for like a certain amount of time. If you feel like you're consuming stuff, like me and Toyin, we have a screen time off TikTok for like 2 hours. We try to keep to it. But if you feel like you're consuming way too much social media, I'd say I personally would recommend going off of it for a bit, because of course you're not going to be on your phone frequently. You're like, whoa, at first you're like, OMG, what am I going to do? Like, I have no social media. But then, as the saying goes, like, touch grass, literally, like, just go outside, take a walk, like, everything is going to be okay. And, you get to focus on yourself.
Yeah. I think another important thing is that not everyone came from the same backgrounds that we did, though, because we do have present mothers, present fathers, and the church is such a pillar of our community. Like, even if we didn't have our parents, we would still have these strong individuals that we look up to, and not everyone has that, so they feel like they have to look at people on social media so they can replace that void that they're feeling in their lives. However, I feel like even though that is a valid reason, we can't use it to justify people like idolizing these people too much. You need to be intentional about the people you're idolizing. If you recognize that you don't have that role model in your life, or you don't have people that you can look up to with the assurance that what they're doing is correct, it's like instilling the right morals in your life, you need to be able to implement yourself into communities like Blossom. Like, signing up is taking that step to being intentional about having people around you that purely do want the right things for you, and they want to see you shine, they want to see you accomplish what you have set out to accomplish. Because at the end of the day, like, unfortunately, if you don't have role models in your life and you start looking to people who will take you in, and you might find yourself in a situation where you're being groomed to live a lifestyle that isn't the right path or isn't what is meant for your life, under the guise of having a role model, when that person actually unfortunately doesn't want what's best for you. So you need to be intentional about putting yourself in spaces where you can be exposed to lifestyles that live by moral codes that are things you can aspire to, like perseverance, kindness, just things like that. It can be just as simple as joining an extracurricular, or just joining maybe the netball team, or just, I don't know, like your friendship group as well. Look at people in your friendship group, people that have lived different ways to you, have come from different walks of life, because it's important that you expose yourself to different cultures, different walks of life, so that you can make an identity that is fit for you, that is comprised of values and morals that are fit for you to live by. And then you can also become your own role model in that kind of way, so that you can live by values that you feel speak to the kind of person that you are. And then you can start holding yourself accountable, your friendship group can hold you accountable, your community holds you accountable. So let's just make sure that we're not allowing ourselves to fall into the trap of being groomed by bad role models just because we don't have people to look up to in our everyday life. I hope you've enjoyed listening to this episode of Go Up Girl podcast on role models, brought to you on behalf of the Blossom Foundation. I've been your host, Toyin.
And I'm Onome. If you'd like to join us at Blossom Foundation, you can visit our website and become a member at blossomfoundation.org.uk. To end this episode, we're going to do a short guided affirmation. Feel free to listen or join along.
I am protected.
I am safe in my body and mind.
I am confident in my ability to handle challenges.
I am worthy of peace and tranquility.
I am grounded and centered in my being.
I am supported by God in every step I take.
I am capable of creating a secure future.
I am open to receiving love and support from others.
I am safe, I am secure, and I am at peace.
I am Onome.
I am Toyin.